Hey guys, it's Spaces Sims, and we are back with more Winter's Wish, continuing Kuga's route, and right in the middle of the drama of our fish being on fire. Anyway, I turned around in a panic and saw that the dried fish on the grill had caught fire. Plumes of smoke were also rising from them. Something smells like it's burning. Is there a fire somewhere? I see smoke coming from over there. Uh-oh. Ah! I could feel all my hair standing on end when I heard voices talking about it. Water! Water! I have to put out the fire! Dash! Good thing there's a well in the garden. Meanwhile, Kuga's just standing right there, staring. If there was a small fire, people would find out Kuga lived in this manner. Mismanaging a fire was also a serious crime in Edo. I mean, we probably wouldn't actually be prosecuted for something this minor, since we were both Oniwaban, but I would have been fired for this if I were a regular servant. Heck, they might have even handed me over to the magistrate's office. I probably should have told you sooner. Did you burn things this often back in your hometown? I should have told you sooner! What the fuck is wrong with you? What's wrong? I'm sorry, wait. What's wrong with you? We don't get to scream that at our boyfriends very often. It's not like, what the hell? Why can't I think of the game? You know which one I'm talking about. We're like from the Vita days. Sweet Fuse. There you go. That's it. I knew it was going to come to me. Like getting to scream what's wrong with you to boyfriend. We don't get to do that often, and I'm just really glad that we got to do that here because, like, seriously, Kuga, what is wrong with you? We were standing there talking, you saw it on fire, and you were like, anyway. Should have told you sooner. You think, genius? Oh, this game is fucking ridiculous. I'm so sorry. I completely forgot I was grilling them. How pathetic. I completely failed at both cooking and cleaning. I did all the chores when I lived on my own. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd botch them this bad, like smacking him in the face with a broom and then lighting his dinner on fire. It made me embarrassed that I told him I wanted to be a servant once things were peaceful again. I'll clean it up right away, so I can remake dinner. It's all right. If we don't leave now, we won't have time to do our rounds. And get ready to... Huh? But the floor's still wet. Kuga didn't seem terribly concerned about that sort of thing, however. He immediately headed back to the room. Since I couldn't leave him on his own, I followed him. A farm folk named Hanzo? Never heard of him. He came here from Shinano recently, seeking revenge on someone named Gengoemon Akahori. Have you heard anything about someone like that? Revenge, huh? Haven't heard a single thing about that. Sorry. I see. Thank you for cooperating. After saying thank you and parting ways with the woman... Oh, okay. The woman we'd been speaking to, I just did the umbrella vendor as a dude. Whatever voice I give him is always wrong. Anyway, Kuga asked me a question in a hushed voice. Was that umbrella vendor just now a human? She seemed to be, unless she was hiding her wooden tag. A lot of the people who know about Hanzo seem to be form folk. Day after day, Kuga and I gathered bits of information at a time by asking around, all while keeping our eyes peeled for an ambush. From what we were told, Hanzo went around explaining his story and asking if anyone knew his target. However, no one named Gengoemon Akahori lived in Edo. Miyagi had already confirmed this. Given everyone we asked responded with, I don't know who that is, or there's no one here by that name, we heard he was feeling very frustrated by the ordeal. The wandering samurai out for revenge that Yuichi heard about must have been Hanzo. Strangely enough, Hanzo didn't speak to any humans. He apparently only talked to form folk. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence. The further the scale tipped in that direction, however, the more it felt that he'd been choosing who to talk to. And again, because like the form folk, like when he ran into the alley, remember we followed him and then there was just some random dude there that was a form folk. It seems like that has something to do with it. The fact that he only talks to form folk, and we throwing around the idea that like does he like possess them or something? So like like it seemed really weird that guy's like, oh, I fell asleep at my job and here I am in an alley in a weird place. Strange. You know what I mean? So speaking of, maybe he found other form folk easier to talk to because he's a form folk himself.
Perhaps. I'm sure there's a reason why, but it's hard to say what that might be at the moment. Even if someone did know who Hanzo was, the tricky thing is that not one single person seems to know where he is right now.
For sure. We hadn't heard a single thing from Hanzo since we had fought him a few days prior. Maybe he expected us to chase him down, or maybe he had no reason to be out walking around now that he tracked down Kuga, his foe. But what if he's keeping quiet right now to build up strength, like Kuga mentioned? All the more reason we needed to strike before it was too late. With that thought in mind, we continued to patrol and question people.
But that bastard said no shame.
Just then I caught a snippet of conversation nearby. I looked in the direction of the voices I heard and saw two men leaning in close to talk, looking at Kuga. Now, they're not just looking at him. Glaring was a better way to put it. I couldn't hear exactly what they were saying, but what I did catch didn't sound very friendly. Curious, I looked towards them. Their threads are yellow and red, meaning caution and anger.
Oh, it's you two. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask...
Peh! The man made a big show of spitting as he turned on his heel, ignoring Kuga's attempt to speak to him. Even though Kuga couldn't see the color of their threads, he also noticed something was wrong here. Chase after him, tell Genjo. I feel like we should tell him. Oh, save file here. Okay. We were saving like way down here. Whee! Okay. Oh, no, I knew that I made a save file there about where I wanted to work. Like, why am I shocked about that? Did I make two? I don't know, anyway. Yep, we tell him. Cool. Love points. Kuga, the two men over there didn't have very good feelings about you. They seemed to be mad or wary of you. I'm not sure...
Of me? I can't think of any reason they'd feel that way. That might have been true back when I just started working as a castle watchman. If they're still wary of me now, I'd be an absolute failure as an Oniwabon.
I have a feeling it's because of rumors that they've heard based on Hanzo. Right. That's why I also find it weird. I never met anybody who felt that way about you when we were on patrol together. Other than Hanzo... Look, he looks so sad. Aww. Kuga raised his eyebrows slightly at what I said, but held his tongue.
Understood. Let's go see his owner, then. The shop should still be open at this hour. It'll be quicker than trying to chase the two of them through the streets.
Sounds good. They were both form folk. I wonder which stores they belong to. And that's the thing, they're form folk. Exactly. So Hanzo's been telling them shit, so now they're like, he killed that guy's family. Like, yeah.
You didn't notice? We drank with one of them at the izakaya the other day. We didn't meet the other form folk there, though.
Like, so one of them was the nice guy that was being all friendly with us? Oh, he must be from Toda's then. Maybe it was because he'd been drunk. Maybe it was because he'd been friendly to Kuga. But he came across so different, it took me a while to realize who he was. If he's the same form folk I met that night, that makes his behavior just now even stranger. To Toda's! Love it. To Toda's!
Genjiro and the young lady too!
When we stopped by Tota's, a familiar-looking man immediately ran up to us.
Have you heard of anything about my form folk? I sent people out looking for him because I can't leave the store, but I haven't heard a single thing. Apologies, Tota, but we have no idea what happened. We saw him earlier and thought he was acting a bit odd, so we decided to pay you a visit. So you found him? What do you mean he was acting oddly?
He glared at Kuga before leaving with another form folk. When I briefly explained the situation, I watched the color completely drain out of Mr. Tota's already pale face. The threads around his neck were also colored with worry and sorrow.
He acted like that toward Genjiro, of all people? I'm not sure what's gotten into him. He said stuff like, humans have ulterior motives, you can't trust them.
I can't believe he said something like that to his own owner. It's so weird to call, you're calling this man his owner. But it is because a form folk is based off an object that you were in possession of. So you're Mitsu is a pair of scissors. You own those scissors. You're the owner of those scissors. Those scissors turn into a person. Now you're the owner of that person. It's really weird. That's some slavery level shit right there. But you gave them a name, and I know that there's all the masters thing, but it's we're also in an oldie time period where if you are serving someone, you are working in their house, as a maid or a butler, you'd call them master or sir or whatever. We kind of do for Genjiro, but it's just really weird when you're his owner. He's not a dog. Oh, I know, it's the time period, and it's also the fantasy kind of level of the world, but it's still you're oh, come on. But I guess would that be what Miharu would think about us if she hadn't been chased out of town? You know what I mean? Because form folk aren't. I mean, we're in this world where form folk and vessels aren't quote unquote real people. They have human form and they act like people, but they're not real people the way they're treated. You know what I mean? Kind of nobody really is oh, well, some people in our town. Form folk are evil! Oh, but our town was backwoods fucking hillbillies. And in Edo, more people oh, form folk! Oh, okay, whatevs. But they still think of them as lesser than? The casual racism happening in this game is intense. Oh god. It is what it is. Okay. I mean, it's the world and it's ye olde times, but still, when you're his owner. I mean, I get it, but ouch, man. I think I have a grasp on the situation now. Tota, I'll find your form folk. And don't worry, I'll bring him back to you. It's you're talking about a dog that got lost. It's you will? I knew I could count on you, Genjiro. Thank you so much. Tota bowed deeply to Kuga. He was almost kneeling on the ground. Tota bowed so deeply, sorry.
Let's go, Spacey.
Okay. You're you know what happened? Yep. I wonder what happened. Do you think it might have been something to do with the Hanzo case?
I'm not sure. Either way, something is definitely going on here.
We talked to the owner of the other form folk after leaving Tota's and found him in much the same situation. His form folk had been acting strangely for a few days, then suddenly vanished into thin air. I'm wondering too if Hanzo, you want to be Hanzo might not be a real person. You know what I mean? Well, maybe Hanzo, I mean, a real form folk. But maybe he is, but maybe he is not the problem. It's a Blightfall that's taken possession of him that is also now, spreading to the other form folk because it's easier to control them than it is people? For some reason? You know what I mean? And, once you start sowing the seeds of discontent and whatever in the form, it's you know what I mean? Especially because if you think about it, if you're a Blightfall, we know the kidnapping god was a powerful Blightfall that was using the children to summon Blightfall to kill Yoshimune. You know what I mean? And cause all this chaos. Okay? So it wouldn't be weird for there to be another Blightfall in this path, right? That is powerful and like that. Okay, so similar to that. But instead of kidnapping kids, this one is like able to manipulate people. But if you think about it, who's going to be easier to manipulate? People who are already discontented or upset or whatever. And if you look at the status quo in the world we're living in, you've got vessels who are not susceptible to Blightfall because they have no hearts. Okay, so they're out. Human beings who are the top of the fucking human food chain, right? And then you have form folk who are basically objects who are owned. Who do you think in that group is going to be the easiest to manipulate? It'd be the upset people. But if people are generally okay, out of everyone living in this grouping here in Edo, yeah, there's going to be pissed off, angry people. But you know what? It's easier to sow those seeds in form folk and be like, oh, humans are just using you. You're just an object. You're just a tool. You're just a possession to them. You're not even worth being a human. You're not even real to them. They're your owner. You're just an object. And you know what I mean? Like, could you, if you were a farm folk, you'd be like, yeah, fuck humans. You know what I mean? So it's like kind of easier to start putting those little seeds of anger inside of a form folk than it would be anyone else, except for maybe a pissed off housewife or something. You know what I mean? So it's just, it could just be doing it theoretically, the Blightfall would be doing it to anybody that's like, that person's angry or me. It would start doing it to me because I'd be very susceptible. It'd be like, everybody at work hates. They do. They hate me. They all hate me. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? It'd find anything that you have an issue with and it just start harping on that to drag you down. But for the purposes of the story, they're going to go with a particular group or whatever so that there's a common thread. And the common thread with form folk would be like, oh yeah, you'd be making them feel like humans aren't worthy or whatever. And if Hanzo is being puppeteered the greatest, or whatever, or it's really taken over him, he is already a form folk, so he'd be like, yeah, people are awful, and like, that guy killed my family, and I can't even do anything about, you know what I mean? And it's just easier to get your own people on your side, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I could kind of see where they might be going with this. I don't know exactly, because there's a lot of options. Like, again, Hanzo could be puppeteering everybody, and just, he could be possessed by a, like, Blightfall. He might not even be real. A Blightfall could have just taken a human form, for all we know, or like a form folk form. I'm assuming he's more possessed by a Blightfall. And, like, maybe his family did die, but and Genjiro just kind of happens to sort of kind of look like the guy he's looking for, and you know what I mean? But like, I don't know, I feel like he's being puppeteered. Different to the way that, what's his face was being puppeteered, Anyway. Okay, form folk acting strangely and disappeared. Okay.
It's unclear what happened to these form folk, but if it's making them increasingly distrustful of humans, they're probably still producing negative emotions,
which is good for Blightfall.
They might give rise to a Blightfall or become one themselves. Either way, we need to find them as soon as possible.
Yeah. Unlike Hanzo, these two form folk were well known around town. Multiple witnesses came forth when we walked around. We walked down an alley based on their testimony when... Yeah, it's... but... Kuga and I stopped in our tracks when we heard the sound of somebody speaking. After taking cover, we took a peek and saw the two form folk we've been looking for. Fortunately for us, it looked like the alley ended there. Kuga shot me a look and I nodded. We've got to stop them if they try to run away.
You two, are you the form folk from Toda's and the Yatsuhashi shop?
Yatsuhashi shop, yeah. They looked up from their huddled conversation and stared at us with wide eyes. I wanted to eavesdrop a little. But something was wrong. Instead of being a surprised hue, the threads around their necks had a joyous orange shine. Kuga, wait! My shout came a little too late. Now, Hanzo! Aye, aye! A silhouette jumped out and attacked Kuga from behind in the blink of an eye. Kuga dodged the attack in the nick of time, then swiftly drew his longsword. Sheesh, you're sure fleet-footed. That's Hanzo, right? That's what they called him, and it sounds like him. But I froze in my tracks in spite of myself. Hanzo had a massive amount of black threads coiled around his body, even more than when we'd first met, because he's sowing the seeds of discontent in other form folk and feeding off of that, and that's how he's getting stronger, probably. Could be. It's another idea. He looked more like a black shadow than a person while looking at him in a dim place like this. That alone is unsettling, but no sooner did I hear a bunch of footsteps approaching than a crowd of townsfolk who had nothing to do with this stood in Kuga and me to protect Hanzo. Stood in front of, I think, Kuga and me to protect Hanzo. There were 10, no, over 20 of them. They all held short swords and jite weapons. What the?
Are they being controlled?
Are they form folk? Kuga had come to the same conclusions I had. All of the form folk gathered here to box us in into this blind alley were the ones who'd said they knew of Hanzo when we asked around earlier. Yep, okay. So similar. There is some kind of a blightfall. Either Hanzo is controlling it or it's controlling him. Or they're in some kind of weird symbiotic relationship, however. And that he's using that to control, like, the other form folk, basically. Their lips were quirked into feeble smiles, just like Hanzo, who had an eerie smile on his face. Oof. No, snap out of it, everybody! You must have a terrible reputation. They just sympathize with my cause. Great form folk minds think alike. That's why they all gathered here. When Hanzo readied his sword, the form folk swiftly cleared a path for him. They were all carrying weapons, however, and all of them were pointed at Kuga. I can't tell when they'll all close in on Kuga. With only me for backup, we're sorely outnumbered, and I can't run. Where the fuck is, we need Kyoshiro's eagle in this one. It's not a hawk. He has an eagle this time. And where the hell's Komame? We just forgot the bird existed? We didn't take... not like she could help, because she's a little bird and she can't fly, but she could run. She could absolutely run. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to see this tiny little sparrow running out the alley. And she could go get Yoichi, is all I'm saying. I considered leaving so I could call for help, but the one path leading to Main Street was blocked by the oddly behaving form folk. You got me earlier, but you won't beat me so easily this time. Fight me fair and... How is it fair and square when you have an army that you're manipulating? Kuga and Hanzo collided head on. Couldn't wait to kill each other until after I said square. Although most of Hanzo's attacks had been ambushes, he showed no signs of shying away. As I feared, Hanzo didn't intend on playing by the rules of revenge matches or the samurai code. Although I knew that from the moment he called in a ton of people as backup. Guess I'll have to join the fight. Then the battle began. It seemed Hanzo had gotten stronger since we'd last seen him. His swordsmanship hadn't changed much, but he kept us in check with the skillful use of his whirlwind attack. This made him an equal match for Kuga. The townsfolk were also attacking us from every direction. Stop it! You've got the wrong man! Kuga would never do anything that warranted revenge. They ignored my plea and continued swinging their weapons at us. It's no use. They're not listening to me. While we somehow managed to keep them at bay, Kuga spoke to Hanzo.
What did you do to the form folk? Is misleading people one of your blightfall powers?
Huh? What are you talking about?
Don't play stupid. There's no way you'd amass this many people with pity alone. They're clearly all acting strangely.
Huh. Hanzo swung his sword with all his might, like he was trying to swipe Kuga's question away. Gotta break that mask. Kuga jumped out of the way, dodging his powerful attack. Thanks to this, he managed to put some distance between himself and Hanzo for the time being.
Looks like you don't plan to tell us how you did it. Fine. I'll defeat you and turn them back to...
Defeat me? You're still going on about that? You think I'd let you leave alive? I'll do anything to keep that from happening. Our sassy lost child is really, really gonna need some therapy and some discipline. We might have to send him to military school. Even more black threads spewed from Hanzo.
I'll take you down with my next attack.
Maybe don't tell him. Kuga ran towards him at the exact same moment, closing the gap between them. His sharp sword closed in on Hanzo once more. Ah! What I heard wasn't the sound of Kuga's sword parrying Hanzo's attack. One of the form folk had suddenly jumped between them. He'd taken the brunt of Kuga's attack and was now writhing on the ground in pain.
You brought them here to use them as shields?
Yeah, exactly. However, I should have known you wouldn't show a single shred of remorse about killing a form folk. Gengoemon Akahori. Must be a cinch for a murderer like you.
I'm not a murderer. You seek revenge against Gengoemon Akahori, not me. How many times do I have to tell you this?
And how many times do I need to tell you? I never mix you up with somebody else. Not when I'm avenging my family. Besides, that'd be a real waste when I have so many buddies who don't mind being collateral if it means I can attain my goals. And, like, that's fucked up because they're going to be like, Kuga killed him! And it's like, he jumped in the way. It's not really Kuga's fault here. If anything, you should slaughter more of them, Gengoemon Akahori. I'm sick and tired of your goody two-shoes act. Hanzo was getting more and more worked up, causing black threads to surge from him. Uh-oh, this is what happened when... Right as that thought occurred to me, I looked around and saw exactly what I feared. More farm folk were throwing themselves at Kuga. At this rate, we'll never win this fight. Ah! I leapt in front of the form folk charging at Kuga, then unleashed a roundhouse kick at their feet. Good for her! I did it! My kick wasn't very powerful, but had an immediate effect on the tangled group of form folk stumbling towards us. The form folk who fell in the very front tripped the ones behind them, causing whoever was behind them to trip and fall too. They toppled over in huge numbers. When Kuga saw this, he immediately turned around and looked at me.
Let's get out of here, Spacey. I don't want to kill any innocent townsfolk. Cover me.
Will do! Alright, now that that's settled. After scattering the form folk who had us surrounded in no time flat, we left the alley as fast as we could. Did we make it out? I looked back at the alley we were standing in a moment ago and saw no signs of anyone following us.
Spacey, what about Hanzo?
I think we're fine. I don't see a trail of black threads.
You don't? Let's head back to the base then. We need to report this to Lord Miyagi.
Okay.
So Hanzo was controlling other form folk?
Back at the base, we reported what happened. Miyagi crossed his arms and fell silent.
He got that much stronger while lying low?
The form folk turned Blightfall we called the Kamakiri probably had strange powers we wouldn't see in normal Blightfall. It was an ordeal.
Right. And therefore I determined it was in my best interest not to continue the fight. Although, losing track of Hanzo is quite the blow, and so is not being able to save the form folk he's turned into puppets. After withdrawing from battle, we walked around asking our Oniwaban colleagues if the form folk had been released and had gone back home. The form folk who'd been in the alley were all missing. Hanzo must have still been forcing them to help him. There wasn't much else you could have done. It would have been difficult to continue fighting while trying not to strike the form folk's original objects, even for you.
Oh, that's true. He slashed at the form folk, but unless he hit their object, they wouldn't be dead. I forgot about that. We're good.
Hanzo might be more than we can handle now that he's a Blightfall. Still, we can't allow ourselves to kill form folk who are just being misled by him.
Hey, Mitsuhige, you have no clue what Kamakura and the rest would say about this, do you? Kawamura. Sorry. You have no clue what Kawamura and the rest would say about this, do you?
What do you mean?
I'm saying they'd probably tell you there's bound to be more victims if Hanzo gets any more powerful. It's all form folk being manipulated and not humans, right? Just our luck. They won't even die if we cut them with our swords.
That's an interesting point. He's gathering form folk. They're the perfect fodder because you slice them down and they'll heal and they'll be fine. So it's actually genius. But also very easy to manipulate them given their standing in society. Yeah, he's right. If we prioritize taking Hanzo, the Blightfall, down, then Yuichi's idea made sense. They were both equally right. To be perfectly honest, that's why I had been relieved when Kuga chose to withdraw. I get it, Yuichi. You're trying to say if we set ourselves up for larger losses later on because we fear smaller ones, we've got our priorities backwards. But the thing is, most form folk are somebody's close companion. A considerable number of form folk have fallen victim to this. A worst case scenario, their owners will experience negative emotions, birthing brand new Blightfall. I agree. I have the same concerns. Also, it's not just the people, it's the fact that form folk have emotions and it's kind of rude to treat them like they don't matter. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, when you're in the middle of like a war, like people are gonna die, but like being like, whatever, collateral damage, no fucks given about them. Thinking about that is just bad. Like, they're not just cannon fodder. That's the way Hanzo's treating them. They're still living beings. And they're important on their own, but they're also important to other people. But, like, they're important to humans. I mean, listen, if that's how you gotta justify it, fine, I guess. Kuga had been listening to the conversations in silence up until this point, but chimed in to follow what Miyagi said. Part of it may have been because we fought at night, when Hanzo's powers grow, but he was definitely stronger. His control of form folk also made it tricky. But when we took on all of them at once, the form folk kept us from being able to do anything. Spacey actually managed to draw some of them in.
Ow. My chair, a little feather that was sticking out of it, and it just jabbed me in my thigh. That wasn't nice, mean chair. I did. I wouldn't have been able to handle all of them, though. Between us using the form folk as obstacles and rendering our defenses ineffective, I don't think we'd be able to defeat Hanzo as he is now. In which case, it makes sense to choose the method that doesn't result in harming any form folk. It's our responsibility to slay Blightfall, but we only do it in order to protect the people of Ito. Kuga. I didn't see a single trace of regret about the choice Kuga made in his eyes as he clearly stated this. Got it. I understand why you ran away, Genjiro. Yuichi had some reservations over how we'd retreated from battle, but reconsidered after hearing Kuga's response. Yuichi wasn't the only one. Now I understood the mental calculations Kuga had been performing when he decided to stop the fight. True, if the Oniwaban gave up slaying Blightfall because they felt bad for the form folk, Ito would be in a world of trouble. I'm sure that was another reason why humans weren't suited for it, besides the fact that our hearts put us at risk of being affected by Blightfall, like the form folk. Sometimes you had to harden your heart. In fact, from their point of view, they had to abandon their hearts lest they ruin everything. It might have been fine this time, but I need to be on the ball too. Well then, sounds like you'll need more than just Spacey to guard you, Genjiro. We're all gonna sleep together now! I don't know if Miyagi's wife's gonna love that, but why don't we have Yuichi take a break from his public job to join you? Hanzo's more likely to attack while Genjiro's patrolling. Maybe we can ask the others to... So about that, probably best if Genjiro doesn't go outside for a while. Why is that? Really bad rumors about you are going around. People will probably chuck rocks at you if you go out on patrol. What? You had to know. I mean, that shouldn't be a surprise. Yuichi was just as nonchalant as ever when informing us of this, but there was no way we'd let that slide without comment. Really bad rumors? About Genjiro? That he's a brute, evil personified. Apparently word's getting around about his feud with Hanzo, especially among form folk. You don't think this is Hanzo's doing too, do you? I mean, obviously. Probably. They're saying Genjiro Kuga's real identity is Gengoemon Akahori, which he's hiding to avoid Hanzo's vengeance. Anyone who believes the rumors thinks Genjiro killed Hanzo's father and that he's absolute scum who killed the other brothers who tried to avenge him. But those rumors are completely baseless! Oh, is Hanzo using his powers to convince everybody of this? That would be a bit of silver lining in all of this. Once Hanzo was no longer controlling them, the misunderstanding would clear up on its own. I asked Yoichi for his opinion, sincerely hoping this might be the case, but his answer was less than satisfactory. Who can say? Personally, I think he used this story to control the form folks' hearts. They must have agreed to help Hanzo get revenge because they felt bad for him.
Yuichi's judgment has some merit. It's not a Blightfall power, but some Oniwabon have the ability to coerce people into acting how they want them to, using their understanding of people's hearts.
Controlling their hearts? There are people who can do that?
Yes, that said, it'd be rather difficult to get to the point where you could turn people into puppets like what Hanzo is doing. Still, it's entirely possible to make people stop lying or to get them to divulge information they're hiding from you. And to do that, you need to make the other person open their heart to you. I've heard the most effective method is sympathizing with them.
Sympathizing?
Bad guys are a totally different story, but Hanzo wants to utilize completely normal townspeople.
He seems fully convinced that Genjiro's the person he's seeking revenge on, so sounds about right to me. A few suckers probably fell for it and are pissed off at Genjiro, especially because they had such a good impression of him up till this point.
I can't believe this. If they had a good impression of him so far, if they knew Kuga on a personal level, then I wish they'd believed he was innocent instead of falling for rumors, and this is better that they don't know where he lives. But that's out of the question at this point. They don't know the truth like I do. Great. I never thought this would happen.
The rumors will probably spread even more tomorrow. Genjiro's famous over in Castletown.
What if we went around telling people Kuga's not Gengo-Emon Akahori? That they've got the wrong guy? I can't believe people are treating Kuga like a bad guy when he hasn't even done anything.
Don't. People know we're close friends of his. If they think we're covering for him, we won't be able to walk around town either.
I knew Yoichi didn't mean any ill will by this, but I felt a little frustrated at how indifferent his reaction was. Kuga himself seemed perplexed about not being able to walk around town anymore, but he didn't really seem to mind being misunderstood. This is like okay. We're in chapter 5. Was this around the time when they were like, we're going to turn Tojo back into an object? Because they thought he was involved. Because, that was the whole thing. It was Tojo is the one kidnapping kids, and they're like, we're going to have to turn him back into an object. And we're like, don't you dare! Rude! And now it's like, Kenjiro's just going to have to go sit under house arrest. At least he's not going to be returned to an object. This is like, okay, Hanzo's lying. And it's not the Oniwabon who's distrustful of him. It's all the people in Castletown. But it's still how dare you? How dare? How darest thou hurt my little robot? He's not hurt. I'm offended on his behalf, though. You know what I mean? I don't think it's nearly as bad as Tojo's round. Tojo's was like, how dare you? Why would you do this to our poor Labradoodle? Stop it. And and this one, I'm like, yeah, no, it makes sense that everyone's mad at him. They're wrong. They're fucking wrong. And I will punch any one of them I see on the streets that said shit to me about it. But, at least the Oniwabon isn't the one. His friends and his little found family aren't the ones that are like, we should just turn him back into an object and be done with it. Cool. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, everybody outside hates him. Just stay in your house. You're fine. You know what I mean? So, it's a little less traumatic than Tojo's route, but it's still the audacity. The audacity is still there, and I'm gonna have to slap some bitches for hurting my poor robot. I mean, again, he's not hurt. I'm hurt on his behalf. I suppose I'll leave my rounds up to you and Spacey, then. Sounds good. So far, Hanzo only seems to strike in town. Me? But they know I'm his servant, so they're gonna, come after me or, say shit to me. Yoichi, they'll be like, oh, that guy knows him, but
they could be like, oh, the Yuichi could just be like, what? I haven't seen him. And they'll be like, oh, okay, maybe Yuichi's not friends with him anymore because he didn't know. Like, Genjiro was lying and even Yoichi didn't know. Okay, but like me, I don't know. I'm gonna be the second most sus person. And besides, the method that Lord Hanzo out of hiding will keep him from figuring out what Genjiro lives. Kuga was silent, perhaps because he didn't think he needed to say anything, as he waited for Miyagi to draw his conclusions. After a short silence, sorry, Genjiro. Don't leave your house until the rumors have quieted down, which will be chapters upon chapters. Spacey, Yuichi, we'll be tracking down the missing form folk. Hi, what you doing? I can't use my right hand now. I made the mistake of reaching up to itch my face, and the bird was like, shooing, beelined to nestle into my hand. So, like, my hand is now against my chest, so he can nestle there. There's no birdie in this one. They fired Komame. They fired her because you don't know how to read her lines. Yeah. Because every time she's supposed to go cheep, 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 and you don't do your lines. So they were like, fine, no more bird. I'm serious, though. I don't understand why they had Komame in the very beginning, and then we get into Kuga's route, and there's no more Komame. Like, Komame is big time star in this, and she's not here anymore, and that's ridiculous. It's very ridiculous. Not that she has to be here all the time, but they didn't even mention when we moved to Kuga's house. They weren't even like, and I brought Komame with me. And she wasn't like, hey, and she just hasn't no hide nor hair of her since we got into Kuga's route, and that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It really is. I know. Several days had gone by since Kuga was ordered to stand by at home. An indescribably awkward mood had hung over the house since then. I'm probably the only one who can sense it, but now this is Tojo's house right now. That was the background. That was Tojo's, school. Kuga, I'll be leaving the house soon. You can leave your bowl there. Once I finished getting ready to go out, I said goodbye to Kuga, who was eating. He held his chopsticks still as he glanced in my direction and quietly nodded. Aww! Oh, I feel bad for our poor little robot.
Very well.
He says that, but always cleans his dishes anyway. Maybe he's just being nice. He's probably bored. The man has nothing to do, so he's like, I'm so bored, I'm just going to wash dishes. Or maybe he was simply distracted and wasn't really listening. I hope he's okay. Kuga had been acting a little strange ever since he started staying indoors. Or at least I thought he was. I couldn't confidently say he was acting depressed or grumpy like a human or form folk, but something about him seemed different from before. Like, they're not totally emotionless. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, okay, Kuga definitely, you could be like, yes, him and Kyoshiro are very much like, I am very robotic. Like, they have no emotions. Tojo is very labradoodle, so, like, there's some emotions in there. He's like, oh, come on now. Okay, whatever. And he's like, but they're very simple emotions, I guess, because he is happy. Like a labradoodle. Happy. I'm a dobradoodle. Hello. What's up? Oh my god. Everyone's my friend. He's perky, I guess. So maybe it's not really emotional so much as, like, your personality is perky. And Genjiro is, like, has no personality. That's not true. He has the very personality of a robot. You know what I mean? Which is still adorable, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, otherwise they would all be like this. We are vessels. We have no emotions. We are doing our job. They would literally, so they still have some kind of personality, but anyway. So even though he's not really supposed to have emotions, it's got to be a little, it's sad for whatever emotions he has. Is like, huh. Or it's complicated. You know what I mean? He's like, this is not good. Do not like. He hasn't said much, and he's been spacing out a lot, because he's got nothing to do. Hold on. He's never been talkative, and he's spaced out a surprising amount before, too. Maybe he's spacing out because he's thinking about a bunch of stuff, like the townspeople, or me.
What's wrong?
Huh? Nothing really.
Oh.
That was all he said before silently sipping his miso soup again. I knew it. He's definitely acting a little weird. I could ask him directly, but I knew he wouldn't answer in a way that would help me pinpoint the reason why. I've been so busy with my Oniwaban work filling in for Kuga that I never had time to talk to him about it. Time got away from me while I was thinking. I've got to hurry. All right, then. I'm heading out.
Okay.
Even after I stood up, Kuga continued staring blankly at his bowl. Aww. Sad. I wasn't sure what was going through his mind at the moment, but seeing him like that made my heart ache.
I went a little aside with him being like, I just stare at my bowl because I have nothing to do.
Basically, what do you think, Yuichi? About what? About... Huh? I'm talking about Kuga! Don't tell me you didn't hear anything I just said! Yawn. I'm gonna say it instead of actually yawning.
Wait. Shit. I can't read or say a yawn without a real one coming on, but
I feel like he wouldn't be actually yawning. He would be like, yawn. There's a chance he didn't even hear my response just now, let alone asking him for advice. With Kuga unable to leave the house at the moment, I was paired up with Yuichi. We had no idea when Hanzo and the form folk he controlled might appear. Being alone was dangerous, so Yuichi was with me, having taken time off from Yanagi Brewery. Kuga was still Hanzo's only target, however. Ever since Kuga was ordered to stay home, we'd seen hide nor hair of Hanzo. That, or maybe he was developing brand new powers so he could take Kuga down next time. Can you follow his tracks instead of running your mouth? You're the only one who can find us leads on Hanzo right now. I am! I'm still searching right now, so I thought I could at least chat a bit while looking for tracks. God, this is a huge pain in the ass. I don't mind helping you track down Hanzo, but listening to you talk about Genjiro... Doesn't matter what you tell me. I have no idea. All he can do at the moment is stay on standby. Genjiro knows that. There's no reason for him to be acting as strangely as you say he is. That may be, but still, he really doesn't seem like himself. Maybe he's not actually happy with being told to stay home, or his feelings are hurt that the townspeople don't trust him, or... No. Yeah. I said whatever came to mind, as I didn't know either. I also didn't get the sense Kuga was dissatisfied with his orders, or that he was disappointed in the townsfolk. He's a vessel, so he doesn't even experience emotions like disappointment or hurt feelings in the first place. That's exactly what made me worried something was going on with him, though. But Yoichi can be bored and fed up with your bullshit. I guess those aren't really emotions, but still they're kinda. You're like, my emotions tell me I'm fed up with your bullshit! You know? Yuichi doesn't believe me, but something's definitely not quite right with Kuga. Maybe he'd change his mind if he saw it for himself instead of just hearing me talk about it. Why don't you come spend the night at Kuga's house too, Yuichi? Huh? You've been going back to the base instead of Yanagi, right? Come to Kuga's house then. That way you'll be around to guard him in case of emergency too. Besides, I heard you used to live with Kuga before. It'll be just like old... Nope. Why not? It sounds annoying. Like, really annoying. I'd much rather listen to you babble. Okay, so, anyway, what I was saying was, and he's like, oh, dear God. Listen, if you're gonna be like this, I can just keep talking, sir. I can go on and on for days. I will find something to talk about. Even if I'm tired and I don't want, I will do it. He hates the idea that much? Living with Kuga never felt like a burden to me, so I was surprised by Yoichi's reaction. Oh well, I shouldn't force it. I'll back off for now and just give it another shot the next chance I get. I'll be like, why? Why do you hate Kuga so much? Oh, Yuichi, apparently Hanzo went to the magistrate's office next. The tracks go that way. Huh, you actually are following them. I like to imagine that her ... is her just looking at him, like slowly turning her head to look at him like, yes, I was fucking looking, you bastard! What the shit? Man, Yoichi's relentless. Or maybe he just feels that way because I was with Genjiro before. As it so happened, we were tracking the trail of black threads I believed Hanzo was leaving behind. That motherfucker should learn to clean up his shit. They suddenly stopped for some reason earlier, but this time his tracks left for a fairly long stretch. This made following them a lot of work. We followed the seemingly aimless footsteps here and there when...
Please, could you give this to the magistrate a little earlier?
I heard an urgent voice just then, causing me to stop in my tracks. I think, though, because remember we saw the one form folk after he ran away and, like, whatever, I think he's controlling them, and I think... or possessing them or whatever. So, like, this, we're following his tracks, but it could also be the tracks of the form folks he's controlling.
No, me first. Mine hasn't been home for 3 days.
Oh, these are just people looking for their form folk.
Then I should be first. Mine's been gone for 5 days. I haven't been able to sleep at night just thinking about what you might be going through. I get it. I'll take down all your missing persons reports, so please, get in line.
It looks like more farm folk have gone missing. Yeah. Ever since Hanzo started lying low, form folk had been disappearing from the city of Ito one after another. Since form folk hadn't gone missing until then, we were positive Hanzo was kidnapping them, just like the form folk who attacked me and Kuga. Again, so it's just like the kidnapping god with the kids. But it's Hanzo kidnapping form folk. Hanzo seemed to be winning over passing form folk because he was leaving footprints near where they were last seen. No one had seen anything conclusive, however. Their family members had all vanished into thin air just out of view. For crying out loud. At this rate, he'll turn form folk all over Ito into his cronies. Huh? Don't say that or it might actually happen. It's the truth. Hope the footsteps actually lead us to something. Might be a trap, though. Although, a trap might actually be better. It would suck if we came up empty-handed. True. Like Yoichi said, we'd still be grateful to find Hanzo waiting to ambush us wherever these tracks led. He also doesn't know that you can follow his tracks, so... If he showed himself, if Hanzo attacked us, we could fight him. Which of course had its risks, but it could also let us flip the situation on its head before it slowly but surely got any worse. Or you find out where he's hiding, laying low, and you attack him when it's during the day, and his Blightfall can't be as strong. The townsfolk seem anxious, and emotional imprints are on the rise. Fortunately, or rather oddly enough, there hadn't been any increase in Blightfall aside from Hanzo himself. He's absorbing it. The atmosphere definitely wasn't great, though. We've got to find some leads on Hanzo quickly and solve this case. Sorry, hold on. I gotta itch my eye, and I only have one hand, and it's the hand that I use on my controller because the bird is in the other one. Right as I was getting myself fired back up...
Oh, would you look who it is?
Oh, it's the... Oh, that right, tempura vendor.
Oh, would you look who it is?
The person who spoke was the tempura lady who always doted on Yoichi. Hello, is the shop closed today?
Never mind that. I heard all about Kuga. Isn't it just awful? I almost didn't believe it when I first heard about it. Guess you can't judge a book by its cover. He didn't treat you horrifically too, did he?
No, not at all.
I'm relieved to hear that. You don't still work for him, do you? Did you find someplace else to work?
The threads around her neck were a complex mix of colors representing sorrow, anger, and concern for me as she talked about Kuga. Of the people who talked to me like this, some almost seemed entertained by the horrible rumors being spread about Kuga. Most were angry at him out of genuine sympathy for Hanzo or worried about me. I knew a majority of them didn't mean anything bad by it, which made me even more sad and miserable. Oh, you still haven't quite decided to take her in over where I work. I'll bet she's helping me right now. Yoichi could probably tell that I wasn't sure how to respond based on how he followed up for me.
Really now, that's great. You'd be in good hands at Yanagi Brewery, especially if you'll be with Yoichi.
I mean, I wouldn't complain about it, but we're trying to romance Genjiro right now. Well, I'll be working her hard.
Sir, it's not your route and phrasing, okay. Oh, Yoichi, quit with the sharp tongue and be honest for once.
Even that lady, look, look, I'll be working her hard. And the tempura lady's like, you dirty little minx. She took it the same way we all did. Perfect timing. I was hanging on to this for my son, but here, you have it. With that, she pulled out some tempura wrapped in paper from a furoshiki cloth. Huh? But what about your son's share? It's fine. He eats this all the time, so he wouldn't appreciate it one bit. Chomp chomp. Yoichi just eating it. He's already eating? Gosh, I love watching you eat. Stop by my place again so I can fry you up something fresh next time. See ya. Okay. Thank you so much. Panicked, I thanked her as she walked away. When I did, she smiled and waved at me. I should have thanked her for being worried about me, not just for the tempura. It was the right thing to do since I was in no position to tell people Kuga was innocent. That, and I knew that was how the townspeople expected me to react. Still, I couldn't shake the childish thought that if I joined in on the gossip, people might actually think Kuga was a bad guy. Every time the topic of discussion turned to Kuga, I said nothing and took a very vague stance on the matter. Right, I need to apologize to Yoichi too. He did his best to cover for me. Sorry about earlier, Yoichi. Here's your tempura. Oh, thanks. Why is he mad at me? So about Genjiro. I don't mind that you're worried about him. Huh? In fact, I'm glad you are. You've been keeping an eye on him for us. I mean, I'm honestly not sure what to tell you about him acting all weird. Doesn't mean that I don't care what happens to him, though. We are friends, after all. Aww. Our bitchy emo Disney princess is getting all soft on us. So, does that mean you're worried about Kuga too, Yoichi? Worried? Think whatever you want. Something like that, I suppose. Honestly, I think Genjiro's too much of a busybody. He's a real pain to be around. But I knew he did it for my sake. When all said and done, I trusted him. He's also surprisingly funny if you keep an eye on him. He's contradictory. Look at Yoichi's little beamy face. He's like smiling. Oh my god, the bromance is so cute. You're like, so you want to come be a throuple with us? Come on, let's go. Contradictory? Not quite the way I expected anyone to describe Kuga. From my point of view, Kuga had always seemed like a very direct, single-minded person. Yeah, he's very much a vessel. But even though he's duty-bound, he also does things like put the townfolk first or let Hanzo go free. I probably would have killed him. I mean, I would have tried not to, but not sure I would have had any other choice. What? But if you had... Then what? One or two unlucky form folk would have gone missing is all. It would have been much more peaceful than what's happening in Edo now, where form folk are going missing left and right. Yoichi wasn't wrong there. I wanted to say something back, but the only counter-argument I could think of was an emotional one that was far too naive for someone in the Oniwaban. I was so embarrassed by this I couldn't think of anything to say. Maybe that's what Kuga's been like contemplating. He's like, I should just be killing people and thinking like that, but I don't want to kill them and... Wait. I was relieved we avoided fighting them at the time, because I knew people would be sad if anything happened to their form folk. Considering the chaos in Edo now, I wasn't so sure I didn't regret not stopping him then and there. Hold on. Stop looking at me like that. I'm not complaining about you and Genjiro. Huh? I brought it up because I thought it was interesting. And the townspeople must be that important to him. He's a vessel after all, so he only does what he needs to see his mission through. But we each prioritize different things. We might work to accomplish the same results, but we go about it in slightly different ways. Genjiro might seem like the most vessel-like of us all, but sometimes he doesn't act that way, which I find interesting. I had no idea Yoichi felt that way. What are you doing? Stop trying to bite me. Listening to Yoichi allowed me to see Kuga in a brand new light, too. A person who both was and wasn't vessel-like. Before this, I had no idea what to make of Kuga, thinking about the townspeople, or myself so often, but he's so gentle, and kind, and warm-hearted. I'd felt this way about him countless times before, but never said it out loud, as it didn't seem appropriate for a vessel like Kuga. I just kept it to myself. Maybe I was overthinking it. Kuga was a vessel, and his heart and emotions had been sealed away for the sake of his duties, and yet the townspeople mean a lot to him. I can see it in everything he does. And also in the way he worries about Yoichi and I. Why couldn't I think of him as the gentle, kind, warm-hearted vessel he was? I was hesitant to say this to Kuga's face because he'd probably find it very strange, but I'm kind of shocked. You're really fond of him, aren't you, Yoichi? Huh? No? Then he means a lot to you. He's important to you? What is this? I'm getting think what you want vibes from you just now. Humans are always so touchy-feely about stuff. Such a hassle. Scratch that. It's plain annoying. That bad. It probably would feel that way to a vessel, though. I probably shouldn't tell Kuga he's nice then. And personally, I think it was pretty nice of Yoichi to tell me this. However...
And heave! And heave! Hey, miss, sorry to be a bother, but could you move out of the way for a sec?
Oh. I turned around and saw a cargo bearer making his way through the crowd. Sorry, go ahead.
Thanks a million.
I hurriedly moved off to the side of the road, and the cargo bearer left with a pleasant smile on his face. Cargo bearer, someone who made a living carting people around in hand-carried transports called litters. Wow, it has walls and a roof? Almost like a tiny house.
Hanzo's in there.
It's more of a palanquin? Palanquin? Something like that. Than a litter. Probably has a samurai or noble family inside.
It's got Hanzo in it.
Oh, right. Cargo are built a bit more simply than that. I've never seen one that ornate before. Just when I thought you were finally used to living in Edo, here you go outing yourself as a country bumpkin. I guess Yoichi's more mean-nice than nice. Having Kuga and Yoichi as my colleagues meant a lot to me, though. Miyagi, too, of course. I was chasing after Hanzo's tracks partly because I wanted to quickly put the citizens of Edo at ease, but also I wanted us four to work together again. I feel like that's going to come in. It's not just us passing that and like it's a little thing. It's going to be like he's hiding in or he's hiding in a row house. But I just feel like there's something significant about that maybe. Maybe it was just so that Yoichi could insult us. I don't know. But anyway, I will see you guys next time. Remember to give the video a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more.